Hi, it's Dwyer, dwyercrime.blog. This is not a crime video. We're just going to talk about a series right now starring Cate Blanchett, which is on Apple TV, right? I'm just going to talk about where I am in the series. I sense that there's about to be a pivot. I'm at episode 4. A little bit more than 30 minutes in, right? So I just wanted to make a video. The pivot might be satisfying. It might not be satisfying. The setup is worthy of a discussion just in terms of growing older, the complications of life, right? So let's talk about it. If you plan on watching, disclaimer, the show is definitely worth it. I need for you to pause the video right here and not return to it until you are at least 30 minutes into episode 4. Now, for those of you who have continued on with this video, let's talk about it. My views might be not the public narrative, might not be what the author intended, might not be what the filmmakers intended, right? And understand, this is a fictional work. It's really a conversation about culture and aging, right? Now, the basic plot of the series is that there's an allegedly fictional book that's really nonfiction, that's written by the mother of a young man who looks like he's 19 or 20, who died after having an affair with an older married woman. Right? The woman, her 6 or so year old son, and her husband, the son's father, traveled to Italy. Right now, I may be slightly off on details. It was really in the background as I was watching it, then it dragged me in. Cate Blanchett gives an incredible performance. The woman playing the younger version of Cate Blanchett gives an astonishing performance. Well, just to understand, this married couple and their 6-year-old travel to Italy. The husband leaves for business reasons. The wife and their 6-year-old, so you would imagine she would be probably in her later 20s, maybe early 30s, right? They stay at the hotel on their own. She meets up with this younger guy, right? And she seduces him. It's clear that the younger guy, who had a girlfriend who left Italy earlier in the trip, this younger guy's not that sexually experienced. He, like many young men, has an older woman fantasy. Right? Here's his fantasy right in front of him. And she makes it clear that she's interested in him. Right? They go back to her room. She has her son in the other room. I'm not saying her judgment is anything close to parental. Right? She has her son in the other room, and she has a very passionate tryst with this young guy. Now, it's clear that she has a life, right? The young guy knows that because the young guy knows she's a mother, is asking about the son before they have their tryst, right? Let's get adult here. We know, the viewer, that her husband, who she has a real relationship with, they have a bond, right? They're together. We know that her husband comes from money, appears to be financially secure. He has a vibrant urban social circle. His spouse, whoever that is, has a very rich role, right? The husband operates several charities, the husband's family, right? There are friends. There's an emphasis on literacy, book reading, culture. And so you understand that this woman has a vibrant role in her husband's life, right? Also, the hotel room she's in. You know, the young kid is doing the young kid traveling through Europe thing, right? He's in, something that's not far above a youth hostel, right? When he visits the older woman in her hotel room, that room speaks of status. It speaks of affluence. He understands. This woman might be just a few years older than me, but she's in a different position in life than I am. Now let me pause the story here and just point out that just going to the present time, everyone who reads the book, that's supposed to be fictional, but we know it's accurate, right? Because the author of the book, the young guy's mother, after the young guy has died, the mother has found photographs. The mother has spoken with police. The mother has figured things out, right?
Generating images of people is only available in early access with Gemini Advanced. Get early access to new Gemini features when you subscribe to Advanced here.
All right. So, let me just say, after that modern day pause, unexpected modern day pause. So let me just say, they have a passionate night together. He then takes out a camera and wants to take photos of the older woman who he's just had a great romp with. And she allows the photos to be taken. She actually explains to him that she's leaving in a day or so. She explains to him that she has to get back to her life. He has to get back to his life. Right? It's clear that she hasn't left her husband. She likes her life as a wife and a mother. She likes her life wherever her real life is, right? It's clear she doesn't live in Italy. And she's explaining to the young guy, hey, it was fun, but now it's back to reality, right? Now understand, we, the viewer, know that the young guy ultimately dies. I'm not there yet in the series. We know that everyone who reads the book that the young guy's mother has authored thinks that the woman who he had the affair with is terrible. She's awful. Right? She's persona non grata. Every time people are talking about the book, there never is the person, ever, who finds her to be a sympathetic character. Right? In the present, the husband's just learning about the affair. Someone has sent him the photos that were taken by the young guy that night, and he recognizes the hotel room in the background. He recognizes the trip they were on when they stayed at that hotel room. Right? He also knows that there's dysfunction between the couple's child. The 6-year-old has now grown up. He can't quite place it. Now he knows it may have originated from his wife's affair on that trip to Italy years earlier. Right, so that's where we are in the show. Now let me make a few points here. Some will sound startling, right? Because of course the husband, he's so devastated by the idea that his wife, let's say 15 years earlier, had an affair with a young guy on a trip that he and his wife took together with their son. He's putting the logistics together in his head, and he's wondering, where was my son while this affair was taking place? Right? He's looking at the erotic photos of his wife, and he's asking himself the question of, why didn't I know that my wife had this side to her? What need was it that I couldn't satisfy in her, that she went looking to get satisfied by someone else? Right? Because the husband has read the book, he knows that her lover was some young guy, a stranger. Right? So we're here in the book. Now let me just say this diplomatically. There are many men watching this video who are thinking like I'm thinking. If my girl was on a trip and had an affair after I left, her and our 6-year-old, and more than a decade has passed, right? We've been together for years. More than a decade has passed. I know the relationship we have because I'm in the relationship. I'm telling you, and it's a personality thing. Personality, of course, is an important part of life. Even if I knew, let's say I read this non-fictional, fictional book, and I knew that my woman cheated on me on a vacation after I left with some young guy who's a stranger, I would never mention it to her. I would never bring it up. If she started to bring it up, I'd have a split second to make a decision. Do I want her to tell me? Do I want this story hanging over both of our heads? Or would I try to wave it off to let her know, look, keep your secrets. Let's not have anything from more than 10 years ago impact where we are today. Right? I understand the husband's response in the show. He apparently is no longer living with his wife. Maybe he comes back, I don't know. I still have a few episodes to go. I understand the person who's living in the world who thinks, gee, if my spouse cheats on me at all, right? Particularly in a calculated manner where she seduces a young guy, where she gets a young guy to go to her room. In other words, it's thought out. I understand a person who has zero tolerance for that, who feels that they made a vow, at the altar, and they've been living a lie for over a decade. Their spouse didn't even share with them that they had strayed from the marriage. Right? My point here is to just say that adult life is complicated. There's the other side of this story, and it hasn't been presented yet in this show. Right? She had an affair All right. Right? It's with a stranger. In my opinion, I'm not saying it's right, but what I am saying is it isn't as wrong as it would have been if it was with someone she knew well. Right? If you're going to hear that your wife has had an affair, if it's with some young guy she doesn't know who she met on a beach in Italy, right, you can say, okay, you know what? She had a fantasy. Her fantasy may have involved meeting a stranger on a beach in Italy, or being with some younger man where she could be the more sexually advanced participant. Right? If it's a stranger, that makes it easier to handle. I'm not saying it's not hard to handle, but let's just say it's not as hard to handle as if there is someone in her past who she's in love with, who she decided to have sex with as soon as you left the vacation. Let's go one step further too. You know, we all have different needs. I have no doubt that she loves her husband. I have no doubt that she loves the life they have together. I have no doubt about that. Let me just say, though, that we all understand that sometimes that's not enough. Right? Sometimes people love the person they're with. They love the relationship they're with. But they still have physical needs that are unaddressed. Right? Now, let's just say, you know, we have websites out there like Ashley Madison and things like that. They're not acknowledged. They're not acknowledged in this series. Right? The series is interesting because of the unanimity of viewpoint that the woman is an evil person. That's striking. That's striking to me. Right? Well, let me just say, I haven't reached the point yet where the guy has died. The young guy turns out to be the affair from hell. Right? This woman thought she had an arrangement with the guy where it's, hey, let's have a night of bliss, and then let's get back to our lives. Right? Let's make this a night to remember, and then let's get back to the lives we've chosen. Right? She tells the young guy that she's leaving to go to London. Of course, the young guy now has completely fallen in love. Right? He wants to go to London with her. She, of course, is trying to explain to him, look, you can't go to London with me, right? Because London represents her real life. Right? Also, the guy's too young. She has a 6-year-old kid. An older man would have looked at her situation and would have understood it a little bit better, would have understood that there is a life involving the 6-year-old. That the 6-year-old has a daddy. Right? This young guy doesn't seem to get it. So here's where I am in the series. And I might make a follow-up video when I get to the end of it. But where I am in the series is where she goes on the beach. She has a stranger. Again, she has some lapses of judgment that are staggering. She has a stranger who she does not know. Does not know. Watching over her son. So she walks out. They have a tryst in a beach bathroom. They talk. He says, I'm coming with you. She says, no, don't. You know, can't have it. Our fun is done. So she walks out on the beach. Her son hasn't been kidnapped, right? Maybe it's the New York City in me, but I hear about kids being given to strangers. I'm expecting the worst. Her son's still there, right? She goes to her towel. Her and her son are sitting on the beach. The guy who she had the affair with then runs past them, glances back at her. He runs into the water. Now, I don't know if he's suicidal. I don't know if he's just trying to prove something. I don't know what his agenda is. But I understand the ethos of what happens here stays here is going to be hard to maintain in this relationship. The show is riveting. I encourage people to give it a look. Kick the tires on the first 2 episodes, right? I'm not here online talking about everything I've watched. Only the really good stuff. I consider this to be really good. I think there are a lot of older people, right? By older, I mean anyone over 30 who's been around a little bit. I think there are a lot of older people who understand exactly where this woman's coming from. Hubby leaves. She has a 1 or 2 day window to explore some things. She meets a young guy who seems perfect. She has a memorable night with him. Right? Does that make her Jack the Ripper? Right? I'm not here to excuse her giving her kid to a stranger to watch. Right? That part struck me as crazy. I have a 9-year-old. Right? But it is interesting that everyone who has read the book, no one yet, and we're more than 3 full episodes into the series, no one yet has thought to themselves, what a bad break for her. Right? This young kid couldn't, roll with the moment, couldn't accept the ground rules that were set. Right? My view will change if I find out that she has done something to kill the young man. I doubt it. Right? I get the feeling that this is the young lover who's just off the hook. Right? The show's called Disclaimer. It's on Apple TV. Thumbs up from me. I'm looking forward to the next few episodes. I'll let you know what I think about them when I reach the end of the series. Those are my thoughts. Let me hear yours. If you've seen Disclaimer, I hope you leave them in the comment section of this YouTube video. Let me also point out, too, that Cate Blanchett is simply spectacular in the first couple episodes. Right? She is spectacular. It would have been interesting if they would have had her play her character as a younger woman. They should have considered bringing an age dynamic into this. Right? Have the young guy with a woman who isn't in her late 20s, early 30s. Right? Have the young guy with a woman in her mid-30s to perhaps early 40s. Right? That would have made the series more exciting in my eyes. Those are my thoughts. I look forward to yours. Thanks for stopping by.